Tonight is the third of the co-housing and the coronavirus web chat series that we pulled together when things were getting a little chaotic, and we wanted to just kind of remind all of us that we're all here for each other, right? So you not only have your own community that you can resource and rely on and pull together through this craziness, but also your larger community of co-housing communities all across the U.S. And I feel really proud of the fact that the Co-Housing Association, because sorry, I'm muting somebody, because of how we have been, how we created and have been presenting web chats, and how we now have had one and plan for 3 more successful online conferences. We're getting pretty dang good at this. And we were lucky enough to have had the practice and the infrastructure and the staffing to be able to pull things like this together. But it does take a lot of work, and it takes a lot of resources. So we always appreciate those donations, which help us to be able to continue doing this. It's really important work right now, and the Co-Housing Association is happy to provide it. So tonight, Rains and Alan are going to talk about some options for open houses these days, because many are under various mandates or suggestions from government officials or CDC guidelines, or just people choosing to do or not do some things. And we have the National Co-Housing Open House Day that is scheduled for April 26th. And some people are already figuring out, wow, okay, we're not going to do what we were going to do, but we still want to do something, right? Like, one of the advantages to the National Co-Housing Open House Day is that people can go visit communities, whether they live in a community or they're seeking it and they're looking for it. So the other day in a meeting, we got talking and we said, well, it doesn't just have to simply be canceled. Let's think outside of the box. What are some other ways people can open their doors without actually opening their doors? And so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And I think, Rains, were you going to start first?
Yeah, but let's also telegraph a little bit what Alan will be showing off, so people know to stick around to my boring part, to his exciting part.
Wait, Alan, hold on. You're muted. There. Okay, Alan, tell us.
What I'll be talking about is some simple solutions to how to do a video tour of your common house. You don't have to be a fancy videographer, and you don't have to have fancy equipment. But some ideas that you can use your smartphone, and just some simple applications that you can download to your cell phone to do virtual tours of your common house or your community, for that matter.
Excellent. Thank you, Alan, and thank you, Karine and Karen, for getting this together, and the work of everybody supporting the National Co-Housing Association and making the series and the web chats possible. Yeah, and great work. I've been a long-time volunteer and some time ago board member for the association, and a regional organizer, and I just think there's so much we can do together. And it's been exciting helping with National Co-Housing Open House Day these past 2 years, but it's become clear in the past month, really, that this year it's going to have to be different. We've got some great ideas, some great, concepts for what communities could do to not just, host a tour, but host an event that had a social cause or a lot of things. But really, here in Berkeley, California, we're already under shelter-in-place orders that span most of the urban counties, the San Francisco Bay Area, and other folks are increasingly coming under those. It's one thing that was evolving a lot in the past week from, okay, no gatherings over 100 or 1,000 sometimes, to 50 to 15 to, oh, if we got seniors, maybe 10. And it's clear where this is going, that nothing's more important than keeping our members safe, keeping visitors safe, and finding new ways to help people to continue to learn about your community and to share pieces of it, but without putting anybody at risk. and or violating any laws and getting folks there. But that said, it's something that every community should be thinking about year round. How does it present itself to the world? How do you reach new people? Where do you come from? Even if you don't currently have openings, successful communities, and there have been past web chats on this, have processes that build a waiting list, build a pool of people that are aware of the community and in relation to it and supporting it, so that when an opening comes up, you're not at the mercy of the market or whoever happens to stumble along, but you're better able to bring somebody in connection with the community. And I can't see everybody's hands, but I recognize some people from established communities and some forming communities, so I'll try to have some comments address both phases. And I imagine some people on here may be seekers as well, and so have some tips for that. But the short form is, as every organization's had to do, it's a matter of pulling up the drawbridge, but in a way that says, okay, how do we still keep long-term relationships out there? How do we make sure that something on our webpage gives a way for people to sign up to express their interests? Over the fullness of time, you will want people there, and we know that there will be openings and rentals and resales. So you do need to keep the flow going. Co-housing, of course, we're communities. It's about the neighborhood, but at its core, it is real estate, and so we're both subject to the larger market, but also the other forces that affect real estate: the ability to close mortgages, the ability for people to see a place and visit it, and so on. There's all kinds of things you can do to help create the experience of visiting a place without bringing somebody in, starting with simple pictures and descriptions of the overall community and about any particular places that are for rent or for sale. And because it's co-housing, you can also have more about the people for those that choose to share, the people who are willing to share stories of what brought them to community or why they enjoy it. As always, the key thing is it's making it choice creating. I saw some communities recently posting on Cohousing L questions about photos and permissions, and it's always start with, don't assume that, oh, you're in your community, let's use a picture for whatever, but start with easy ways for people to say, yes, this is okay. Make it easy for those who are willing to share to do so, and don't force it on anybody. But yeah, just pick pictures of places and people, and sometimes, you can ask people who are willing to, to stage a picture of something, whether it's a common meal or an outdoor gathering. So yeah, just have those, line up for something. It's a lot of developing communities, and ones I've seen, led by developers. They'll have just empty buildings or spaces, or the architects will show off their designs, but really have to show it with people in it for people to be able to see themselves in the community. Something I've done a bunch of is take not just standard pictures, but panoramic photos that take a series of pictures that link together so people can have a look around and really imagine themselves. Because even just with the name of Cohousing, there's still so many people that say, oh, you mean housemates? You mean that co-op thing I did back in college? We need still to do work to overcome those images in people's heads. And so the more that you can give people the experience of community, the series of pictures that tell a story, and Alan will show more about video options in this regard, but even just as a slideshow, something that shows the progression, that shows the private kitchen, that overcomes the idea that it's all shared, or that it's whatever the image in their head is. I still have a lot of people when I come and visit said, wow, I really didn't think it was going to be like this. So that's where the battle of building connection, making it to real people. Hold on a second. So other thoughts on community, neighbor conversation nearby, so I'll move where it's a little quieter. nice to sit outside, and we'll move on in. Quarantine side. Yeah, the more that you can help people see the people of community and understand, that yes, see how imagine themselves in the community, see themselves fit in as the piece that makes it viable. Betsy, maybe you can turn down the volume on that a little more. And let's see, just other thoughts. I mean, it was great seeing the plans for Open House Day, of partnerships with different organizations and outreach on core areas that people in the community are working on. And so it's through those relationships to different organizations that you can build more, bring people in ways that's not just about a place to live, but it's something, for this greater sense of purpose and opportunity. I've seen, people use different sort of branding, like Fair Oaks Cohousing, for example, near Sacramento, that to get some of the flavor of the green aspects of community. Others using the Eco Village branding, reaching beyond cohousing in some markets that may have more resonance and more connection. But the main thing is, take a look at your Facebook presence, your website, and all aspects of your community, and says, what makes it possible for somebody to get in and learn what it's about and imagine themselves in the community, and what's the on-ramp that makes it possible for people to get involved and start to ask questions and learn more together about it. Is there ways, something we've done here occasionally, and we'll figure out at some point how to resume when it feels safe, uncommon meals, where people come on a meal a night that's not a community meal, and cook together in community and get the hands-on experience in a co-housing common house. And that can be something that people might be more comfortable with in the community, because, okay, it's not crossing over between other community members and outside people, and properly, supervised and sanitized, and maybe something that feels reasonable at some point to do. The other ways is just look at ways of, from the community going out, online events. I think there'll be real opportunity as we rejigger National Open House Day. I know that on the Saturday, the day before event from Connecticut is now, I understand, going to be an online event. And Karen, would you like to say something about what that's becoming?
Yeah,
it was going to be in person at a community in Connecticut.
Yeah, so Rocky Corner Cohousing, and they had created a fabulous one-day program with some various topics as a part of the Cohousing Association Simple Series. But with recent events, they decided that they wanted to switch it to an online event. So those details are being rolled out and will be on the website, the CohoUS website. But the education and the connections are absolutely still going to happen. It's just going to be in this format.
Yeah, I was really impressed with the work at the Affordable Conference on Affordable Cohousing, the one-day event that in Zoom format offered much of the experience of gathering in person, in terms of the networking, in terms of the education and connections. And so the value is there, and without the expenses involved, and without the risk and other costs of getting there and staying and so on. So something to think about also is, if you're, so that's on Saturday the 25th, and we may do some other related events that weekend of, highlighting different communities and, series of looks around and videos and so on. But Daisy, would you have something to add specifically about the event on the 25th, or just a different idea?
This is actually in general about open houses. You're talking about having it online like this, and you were also talking about having pictures and panoramic photos that describe the space, and also interconnecting with others. We've had a pretty good open house before, of course, when the virus was starting. But what I found really helpful in the past was creating montages. So
Yep.
it gives you the essence and the feeling and the flavor of the community, while also having some really good photos of the interior of the space. And you can also have a separate montage for the place that's for sale and one for the space. The other thing is, when meeting online in things like Zoom especially, you can create the background. You can add a background of the beach, but you can also add backgrounds that will be of your space, of the community. And as you're on there, and if you're giving a presentation, you can actually have that going on in the background. And I think that's an extremely valuable thing to have, because it's not just like we are, the background that's our room, but you can have really great images from your website or from the community going on as you're talking, as you're sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Daisy, what community are you in?
We're in Eastern Village Co-Housing, the second largest, I believe. It's in Silver Spring, so it's a downtown. It's between a park, a public park, the DC Park, and downtown.
It's a beautiful spot.
Yeah, it's garden inside, but and of course tomorrow we're going to be all singing off the balconies.
Oh, excellent! That Italian or Spanish tradition.
Oh,
that's
please
growing.
make sure you video record that and share that.
Oh yeah, we'll have to see who can do that. Yeah, because there'll be all angles, because we're a U shape.
Wonderful.
So it's all garden balconies, and we're going to have different people come out. I think I'll do an Italian aria, just to keep it in the spirit. I'll do an Italian aria.
Wonderful.
Thanks for that, Carrie.
Thank you. And I saw a request for saying more, and just a couple more words on this particular topic. You can really, it's worth looking at what forms the picture. Yeah, can people see a scrapbook and what's really representative of who you are and who you're seeking? Was somebody looking? Will they see themselves in there, in age, in gender, in race, in other ways? How can you make sure that people see that there's room for them in the community, and get over whatever ideas are supporting them in that? And also other stereotypes. I've heard people, especially younger people, say, "Oh, that's a lot of work. Your meetings must be really hard. We had consensus groups. It's a challenge." And the more you can have, actual people with actual quotes, and this is where video clips could also be helpful, explaining, yeah, it's a challenge, but but it's worth it, or here it's really not that bad, or we always have light and lively activities or meetings, and they're well facilitated, and things that help people get over whatever obstacles, the things that are in the way of connecting them to community.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I've started to see some questions pop up, so I don't know if we should start to address some of those before switching to Alan, or get more of them at the end.
I think, Rains, if you want to talk about, there was a question about recommendations for forming or building communities, specifically being able to help continue to market the remaining units.
That's obviously a big challenge, especially at a time like this. And yeah, the more that you can, as your members, have you done field trips and visit other communities? Can you do virtual field trips, talk to other communities, especially ones that are a lot like yours in density or urbanness, or close enough in geography to say, okay, can we see what it's going to look like? Can we get some vision of it? Can we meet more of the people in the community and see the progress, and see that this is something that's really happening, and that what's going on doesn't have to slow it down, that people help people keep connected to the long-term vision and realize that, okay, this is a challenge, but it's relatively short-term in the course of both project construction and a project's lifetime, and that you're able to keep going. I've seen in many places, including here, construction, and especially affordable housing construction, is exempted from travel restrictions. Karine, you had something further?
I was just going to say that many people who did not spend nearly as much time in front of the computer that I do, for example, are learning the benefits of FaceTime or Skyping or things like this Zoom. And one thing that your forming building community might consider, whether it's for National Co-Housing Open House Day or anything else, if you had been doing like a coffee meet and greet kind of thing, do it on Zoom or some version of it. Because while it's great to be able to see the physical property and to be able to see the buildings, the people are super, super important. And so if people can start to build those relationships to figure out if it's a good fit, that's continuing forward.
Definitely, and I'm looking more at the question so far in Marcia's comments from Bay State. Yeah, certainly. We've actually I had a breakfast this morning of folks that regularly get together for breakfast. Got together with Zoom instead, and dining separately, but eating together. We actually brought in former members that were as far as Paris and Montana. It was lovely to connect, and actually maybe a little easier to take turns talking than it was at in-person tables at a crowded come table. But actually, back to Marcia's question, meetups have been great for promoting in-person events, and they've just adapted their policies to allow for more virtual events. They used to allow you to do some virtual events, and now, of course, it's like, okay, you can do all virtual events. And so regional meetups, like in the case of Malvern, Mass, the New England Cohousing Meetup Group could be a good way both for coordinating and doing joint marketing with other groups and promoting. Somebody else was just asking about coordinating online open houses. This is where we'll be shifting. This is from Adams Creek, Becky. Will be yes, shifting from our scheduling of in-person events and aspects of that to specifically putting up a schedule and regional coordination is the best way. But given if you're especially if somebody's looking to move to an area, then that's some of the best prospects. But yeah, well, there's more flexibility with online. We don't have to do everything all together in a day, but we'll try to put together some ways that people can highlight and do quick tours and yes, I see. We'll talk more about the video aspects in the second half with Alan. Other thoughts or questions about open houses and the way to do it? Daisy, one more quick thought that you have?
Yes, actually, we did an open. I'm on the R&R's rental resale group that we organize and reach out and promote the community. Our goal is to have way too many people looking at it, including developers, and that's what we've had. And so they want to create their own communities. We found that there were certain things during the open house we had to follow. We have HUD people here, and they're very aware of the rules too, that you cannot you cannot interrupt anyone coming to an open house to show them around the place. They must immediately go to the open house if they've come to see a place that's for sale. Otherwise, you could be interrupting the marketing, and that's kind of a legal thing. It's kind of important. But we still found we were able to immediately get the people who were coming to see the place that was for sale there immediately. And then if they wanted to, we could show them around or talk to them about the community. But we did get a huge response from mainly just with meetup responses and RSVPs, but also getting the advertising on all of the main MLS websites. But that also it mentions the place for sale, but it's a way to also promote your community.
Definitely, and then we're not trying to be a comprehensive view of all marketing tonight. And there have been previous chats that looked at different ways of doing that. But it overlaps. When we start to go from in person to online, it becomes more like about your core presence of website and social media and your basic outreach. and connections.
Absolutely. I was going to say, Rains, I think if it's okay with you, I'm going to shift over to Alan here, who can talk about, you know, as one of the potential options, creating a little video and whatever else he has to say related to that, because I want to make sure we have a little time for some more questions at the very
Absolutely.
end. Thanks, Rains.
Thank
All right,
you.
Alan, you're up. I can't unmute you. You'll have to do it yourself, Alan.
All
There you
right.
are.
I had a picture I was going to show here. So can you see that picture? Did I share that picture? It's a picture of our first happy hour on Zoom that we had last week. We had just we triumphantly completed our COVID-19 guidelines for the community, and we celebrated by having a virtual happy hour after we had our virtual community meeting about COVID-19. So we had a productive and fun following. But anyway, just another word from our sponsors. You know, the Co-Housing Association puts a lot of time and resources towards projects like this, and particularly during this time of need. And you know, I sound like a public radio announcer, but you know, we can't do this by ourselves. And myself, I'm a contributor. Rains is a contributor. Karen and Karen are contributors, or even on the staff. Why do we believe in this? It's because we believe that co-housing is one of the most important ways that we can, as a group, and as 170 groups, work together, and in this case, you know, literally save the planet. And you know, I'm an economist also, and there's a class that I took that was that talked about various kinds of ways things get funded. And one of them has to do with this, they called it really the public broadcasting system, or the NPR model, because there's this notion of free riding. You know how, you know, maybe you listen to the radio, but you don't contribute, but you get all the benefits from it like everybody, or you watch public television and you watch all the benefits, but you don't send in your 10 bucks every month. Well, this Co-Housing Association of the USA is just like that too. We offer all these activities, such as these web chats, on a whole variety of topics. And we do that at no cost, and we do it based on, you know, the generosity and what you feel like you might be getting out of it, not just for yourself, but for the 20 people in your community, or the 40 people in your community, or the 60 people in your community. We're counting on you to take this message that we bring to you back to your communities. You don't turn on the radio dial and listen to public radio, but what you do is click on our website and watch these web chats. Or you take an hour out of your day and come and watch a web chat to participate and gain information about how to market your community, how to get more people involved in co-housing, how to sell homes in your community. And there's a link in the chat box that talks about how you can just one click and donate. And in that vein, you know, I donate my time to the Co-Housing Association, and you know, the information that I'm going to impart on you today, you know, I do it as a volunteer. And you know, normally I charge organizations and groups money to hear what I'm about to tell you. And so I'm hoping that that will be an incentive for you to also contribute, because I feel like you are giving value, because I feel like I'm giving value to you. And so in exchange for that, I hope that, you know, you'll support the association. But to start out with, when I'm not saving the world doing co-housing, I make documentary movies and write books about saving the world. And so what I'm going to explain to you a little bit about is how you can use your smartphone and tell your community story without having a big editing system, without having fancy 4K or HD cameras, although cell phones are HD and 4K these days. So first off, it's a matter of coming up with, okay, what are you going to do? And so the first thing you really need to do is kind of come up with an outline of what you want to try to get across in your story. And because you really can't edit in the phone, there's this idea that's called the continuous shot. And what that means is that you turn on the camera and you follow your story and you go around and shoot whatever you're going to shoot, and then you turn off the camera. And so that is called in-camera editing, because there's no export of video and no editing in a second-party system. So what you want to do is come up with your outline, come up with your story. If you're going to try to do a continuous shot, say for instance a tour of your common house, you want to say, okay, I'm going to go to this room first, and I'm going to go to this room next, and I'm going to have this person come in and explain a little bit about what the kitchen is like, and then you're going to go to the next room, and in there's going to be that same person is somehow miraculously going to be over in the next room and able to explain what the meditation room is all about. And so that's known as scripting, storyboarding really, and then kind of scripting it. So that's what you can do on the continuous shot. And the other way that you can do it is what I'll demonstrate today for you, and that's basically just a continuous shot of whatever your location happens to be, and then how you can upload that to your social media or upload that to YouTube. So first off, what we'll do is we'll make the movie. And so most of you have cameras on your phone. I have an iPhone, and there's a camera function. And there's a camera function that talks about square for photos, regular photos, videos, slow motion, time lapse. What I do is shoot on video. And one of the facts that will get more people to look at your video is if your video is square. And the square video, for whatever reason, gets more views than a horizontal video. And so when I'll kind of show a little edit how you can edit the video so it ends up being more square. But in absence of that, an up and down video, which as a filmmaker, I think is totally sacrilegious to do an up and down video. But I've thought about shooting a whole movie on my iPhone using up and down videos, because it would just show that it was made on an iPhone, and maybe other people are annoyed by that as I am. But anyway, if you look on your camera face, there also is a button that's for switching it around. So you can make a selfie of yourself. Say, for instance, that's the one I'm going to use. So say, for instance, you want to be the narrator of your picture. And the other little hint is the tendency is to hold the camera down here more, so you're looking at it down like this as if you're texting. But from a vanity standpoint, what that does is, guess what? It takes pictures of your floppy neck, takes pictures of the hair in your nostrils, it takes pictures of the bags under your eyes, and it doesn't really make for a very good photogenic shot. And so what I suggest is that you hold the phone up and kind of look up towards it, because what that does is it gives a sense of control that the narrator has versus this, which is kind of a bit subservient. And again, like I say, it kind of makes, the camera never blinks. And so it makes you say, oh no, I don't want to show that to the rest of the world, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little panorama of my office, which happens to be in the common house. And we will record this. And this is Alan sitting at his desk and showing one of the ways that the co-housing community in Boulder makes some money, and that is by renting out some of its space to local artists, including this guy who is a filmmaker. And so I'll close off the camera. And so what happens then is if you take photos or videos, it gets saved to your camera roll. And so what you can do then is open up the video. I don't know if you can see that, but you can open up the video. And at least on an iPhone, Androids I think have a similar function. Down in the lower left-hand side, there's a little local artist, including this guy there's a little arrow down at the bottom, and it shows that you can select it, and then you can share it. And it gives you all these options, like it gives you messages, email, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload it to my Facebook account. And I'm going to title it Cohousing Video Demo. And I go next, and I'm going to share it. And so what happens is then, as you know, it uploads to my Facebook page. And so that's one way you can instantly show what you're doing. So for instance, if you have a Facebook group or a Facebook page, I think you can share that video directly to your Facebook page from the phone. And so, but if you want to do that and make it so it's more shareable otherwise, you can upload it to YouTube. So what you do there is you go into the application store and you search for YouTube, and it comes up and you want to download it. I already have it on my phone, so I will open it. And so there's a little, when you get to the front page, there's a little camera on the top, and it says you can and that means upload. And so then I'm going to pick this movie that I just made, and we will record this, and you can upload it. So what you would do is write a title, Coho test, and some kind of narrative. I think I have to say that it's not appropriate for kids, or maybe it is appropriate for kids. But I upload. And so this will take a couple seconds to upload. And what you can do then is you'll have a link to this video that you can share to your group, share on your website, share in your social media. And how long is it taking us to do this little video? About 10 minutes. And that was only because I was talking too much in between. And so this is one way to make pretty good videos because the camera videos these days are very high resolution. They're high definition, meaning, you know, they're as good as your TV set, 180 pixels by 1920 pixels, or as good as a 4K camera, which is, you know, 4,000 pixels. And so you can easily make pretty high quality videos and post them to your website. So that's one. So that's one thing that you can do. And like I say, you can do, like for instance, we just did my office. You could do the same thing. You can make a separate video for your common house kitchen. You can make a separate video for your TV room. You can make a separate video for your courtyard, and you can, you know, make a series of them. And if you are tricky enough, you can use iPhone editing system. I use one called iMovie. That's basically the Apple version of Final Cut. And you can buy that, I think it's $15. And that enables you to stitch clips together and make a longer form video if you want to do that. And there's another one that's called Splice. And I think Splice is also iPhone, but it might be Android compatible. But there's another one that's from GoPro. There are a couple others of them that maybe if you're an Android user, you might be able to find one that's more specific. But you know, you're going to spend $15 or $20 on that. And if you're going to be doing much video editing, you know, I think it's worth it. But anymore, I just use the continuous shot, just because I think it's more creative to make a video where you have people coming into the scene, going out of the scene. You're able to tell a story without having to turn off your camera. So that's all I had to offer. And if you have questions, or what I should do is I should make a YouTube video about how to make a YouTube video, and then you can look that up. Actually, I think I am going to do that.
So, Ellen, with the continuous shot, do you it's something you could do multiple takes, as it were. Try again.
Try again.
People
Yeah.
willing.
It's definitely more
a little
creative.
bit better each time.
Yeah, definitely more creative. Because what happens is that, like, if you have 3 or 4 people who are in your little movie, it gives them time, you know, you kind of rehearse it, but it gives them time to get to the next place where they need to be while you're taking pictures of this over here, and then you move to that room, and then and then they're in there. So it's just more of a creative way to do it. Yes, I see Neil had pointed out that Alfred Hitchcock was the master of the one shot, the single shot.
This is Liz with a question. Do you have any examples on your community page of videos that you've made this way that we could see, or you could point us to?
Well, you know, we haven't really done that because we haven't had any reason to really to sell our units. But I'm thinking that, for instance, we rent out, we for whatever reason, our residents don't use the common house very much. And so as a result of that, we rent out, there's more people from outside the community who use our common house than who live in our community. And so, like, for instance, we rent out to 5 artists down in the basement. We use our common house for a whole variety of activities. And so now that I'm thinking about it, I think I will do a video tour. So when outside groups want to rent our common house for this or that, they'll have an idea of what they're getting themselves into.
And Ellen, how long should a video be for people to be willing to watch it, actually sit through
I think the data are something like, you have to really grab their attention within the first 7 seconds. And so how that even translates into like real screenplay writing, you want to catch, like, for instance, a TV show. When did they find the dead body? They find it out before the first commercial. And so you want to really kind of grab them within the first 7 or 8 seconds with something in your story, particularly if it's going to last only like 35 or 40 seconds per shot.
So people really shouldn't be thinking like a bland narrative, and this is the common house, but instead,
what they might want to have is like what's called in screenwriting is called an inciting incident. So what you might want to do is have like someone in there chopping up some vegetables. Oh, so what are you doing today, Sarah? And then they would immediately set the stage. Okay, this is the kitchen. There's a place where you cook, and here's a person who's doing some cooking. And so you want to kind of grab their attention as soon as possible. Like, for instance, what happened a few minutes ago, my neighbor Henry came in to see what was going on in here. And if I were doing a video about my office, I would say, oh, hi, Henry, welcome to my office. Or I'm on the phone with somebody in my office. And so that would be a cue to whoever is watching that, okay, they're in the office, there's a co-housing guy in here, and somehow he's having a meeting about co-housing for whatever, or for whatever. So it's a matter of just kind of coming up with that inciting incident.
But still keeping it simple, since Americans are so video literate that they pick up on the inauthentic.
It seems to, Alan, like if we are looking not as much about marketing, but to share our community, like I said, just not so much about marketing. It seems that you want to find a mix of showcasing this is our common house kitchen, and here with somebody chopping vegetables. We have meals 3 times a week, and 30 to 40 people attend them. And so you would want to point out, you kind of want to hit all levels. Somebody who doesn't know much about co-housing, but then it also seems like it would be interesting if you could point something out that is unique about your community.
Right.
True.
And that gets down to kind of the kicking the tires thing. Like, for instance, if you have 5 rooms in your common house, maybe you have 5 neighbors who give a little testimonial about that. Mm-hmm. And so what that does is, one, it would give the viewer an opportunity to see who lives in your community. Are they all young people, or are they all old people? Or maybe you would be intentional about having a variety of people give those stories if you're trying to get across, for example, that you're a multi-generational community. And if you're selling yourself as a senior community, of course, maybe you're going to have stage your shots that have reading glasses around on every corner, or medic alert things hanging around people's necks when they're talking on the phone or whatever, talking on the movie. So you want to be able to use the whole frame to tell the story about your community. So you might want to have, you know, a young family and kids. If you're, you know, talking about, oh, we watch PBS kid shows in the TV room, and show a picture of the kid having fun playing on the floor. So yes, you want to maximize. You want to show, not tell. Is kind of the mantra of filmmaking. And one other thing too is subtitles. On short videos, for whatever reason, you know, you'll see it, you'll come up on your cell phone. I think it defaults to mute. And so oftentimes you'll be watching your cell phone, but you're going to be at the doctor's office, or you're at the library, or you're on the bus, where it says signs like no cell phones, no talking on the cell phone. Well, if you don't want to have the audio, take the time to put subtitles. And so I think YouTube might even do automatic subtitles. And so there are, you know, ways to kind of simplify that process. On iMovie, I think you have to physically type in or key in your subtitles. So keep subtitles in mind as well.
Ellen, someone had a question. Melinda had a question. Their building is being, their community is being built in 4 phases. And the common house might not be completed until the 3rd phase. So do you have any suggestions on how to promote the community virtually? She understands that featuring some member of our community or showing the land building in progress. Do you have other thoughts or suggestions?
Yeah, you might have existing photos of maybe you have your community process going, and your whoever your architect or whoever's helping you do your community building is there, and you're putting down the blocks, and you're drawing pictures on a map, or you're, you know, putting the sticky notes on a piece of paper. You might want to include a picture like that, or even the profile or the profile of your common house, what it's going to look like, and use some maybe there's some models that your architect has put together. You can do things like that to kind of give a, you know, sort of a vision for this is what it's going to be. And that's where you really want to have your story in place about, okay, our community is about X, Y, or Z. And this common house really is the epitome of what our community story is about. And join us at our next meeting, because we're going to go over some of the details about how that common house is going to come together. And so, you know, use some kind of pitches like that possibly for getting people to look at your project, but all there is an idea. You're selling an idea. Basically, you're selling the secret sauce. And you know, unless you're able to kick the tires, you're basically just selling a story. Wow, co-housing is a hedge against loneliness. How we're a great place for kids to grow up to be healthy and strong. Those are the kinds of things that people care about. They don't care about that you're going to have 2-inch plush carpeting. They don't care that you're going to have tile versus Formica. They want to know what they're going to be getting out of this as a neighbor, because they're going to be dropping their life savings into this house, which may be even their last house. And the last thing they want to do is end up with a bunch of deadbeats who they don't really like. And so you really got to get them to go and sell them on your place, sell them on the people in your community, as opposed to selling them on the buildings. The buildings are just the places where people, you know, sleep and brush their teeth.
Seems like it would be beneficial too to create a video of how beneficial it is living in community in our current situation.
Yeah, exactly. Like you show pictures of Rains and me in our pajamas wandering around the common house with Henry drinking cups of coffee, right? Or Karen coming to the front door delivering papers in her slippers, slippers and nightgown. You know, this is the great thing about these Zoom meetings, right? We don't, you know, here's Pat Park. I just see the top of his head. Who knows what's underneath that, right?
So do you have any recommendations? There was a question if folks are not even at all together, of how they could maybe take like selfie, you know, individual videos and then put them together.
Yeah.
Do you think it would make sense to put them together?
Exactly. So short of the most important part of co-housing, in my view, is the community part. You know, you're going to be able to find a place to live. You already live in some place, right? And so you're building your community, but you're living in your existing houses. And so the idea would be is when you have your meeting, building yourself as a community, what I advise is, you know, come up with your story, come up with a name for yourselves, and kind of go through the checklist that's, you know, on the website. What goes into the secret sauce? You know, consensus, mission, values, and these, and higher purpose if you have one, and form your community around that. And then later on, what's going to happen is you're going to start getting into more of the feasibility studies where, okay, are we going to just live in the same apartment house and call ourselves a community? Or are we going to go buy a piece of ground and do, you know, the hardcore co-housing? Or are we going to, you know, buy an apartment building and all live in that? So how are we going to do this? There's this whole range of co-housing opportunities other than just buying a piece of ground, hiring an architect, and spending millions of dollars in 8 years trying to build it. You're already going to be having your community if you create yourself and do things. Go to dinner. Maybe you go to one another's place for dinner. And then what you do then is you make a little video about, okay, we're over at Mary Finney's house and she's hosting the community dinner this week. And oh, we're having the community meeting this week, and it's going to be over at Linda Reed's house. And then you take a movie of that. And so how you show that there is a community, but you're just maybe not in the same place. Actually, through the miracles of editing, you can make that look like you are in the same place, and maybe have it as the the wizard's castle or Cinderella's castle and stuff like that. These are all fictitious rooms.
Alan, it sounds like what you're describing could really be more than one video rather than people trying to get everything into one. You know, think about the different audiences and use some of the same material even in different ways to reach different folks with the messages that are relevant for them.
Right, but if you're a farming community, video is very powerful because that way you can kind of show people, well, we don't have a building and land yet, but we're together, we're a community, and so come join us. You know, I mean, it doesn't cost you anything except maybe a tuna casserole to come and meet everybody.
Good. All right, we have just a couple more minutes. Does anybody else have questions for either of these two? So at first, a little more specifically about National Co-Housing Open House Day and some options if you don't want to actually open your house.
And so we're just now figuring that out. This has been a big scramble for everybody the past week as things adapted, and so we'll have more info shortly about how to schedule things and coordinate, and it'll be a similar submission form to what's there now, but instead of the emphasis on the in-person events, the focus on how to share the link, which you could already do right now, to share a Zoom link or your website link for National Open House Day. Thank you, Neil, for the link to it. That's the existing page, which will be adapting.
And one last word from our sponsor. If you feel like you got something out of this, and it's worth a couple bucks, click on the link that's in the chat box.
And the series is continuing, I understand. Next Tuesday, there's another one on this particular series, web chats.
Yes, with the topic to be announced. So I just want to summarize. I learned something, and Alan is my video guy who lives across the street. I can't believe I didn't know this. So I took a video the other day, and I realized that while I pointed out some unique and unusual things, I definitely defaulted to, here's our dining room and here's our whatever. But part of it is because nobody's really hanging out right now, but I have some really great ideas. Thank you, Alan, for how to make a better video, and it will not be an amateur up and down thing that said drives you crazy. So I might need a little more coaching on that. Rains, thank you for some of those ideas that talked a little bit about overall marketing as well. I mean, a lot of the things that people will be putting together as options for National Co-Housing Open House Day absolutely apply to just marketing your community in general. So thank you. So the transcript, if you will, of this web chat will be created with not word for word, but some of the main points and ideas, and will be uploaded as a document onto the cohousing.org on the web chat section. This web chat is still being recorded, and once that is processed, that will go up on the website as well, so you can view it again if you want to, or you can tell others to check into this and see what y'all can create in your communities this year for National Cohousing Open House Day. And I guess the last thing I just want to say is, yes, we are continuing this cohousing and the coronavirus series, which we just put together kind of on a whim, but an important whim. So we have not decided, so the previous ones, the recording and transcripts again are uploaded on our website. And as we go forward, our next web chat is scheduled same time on Tuesday the 24th, topic to be decided. We're just kind of waiting since things are changing nearly daily. We're just kind of sussing out what the needs are. But please, if you have any ideas of what you would like to see conversation being facilitated or ideas being shared, we will happily take those into account. We kind of foresee doing this for a while, once or twice a week, until things feel a little safer to people, I guess would be the word. So
Also wanted to recognize Liz King. She had a suggestion in the chat box, something that reminded me of something I had forgotten, and that has to do with hashtags. And so maybe Karen and Karen and Rains and Neil and myself, we can kind of come up with a series of hashtags to use to tag your videos, tag your posts on social media, Instagram or wherever.
Appropriate search keywords, yes.
Search keywords, and we'll make those available also, so that people can.
that's a great idea, Liz. Great idea. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. 7 o'clock. So I think I'm going to shut things down. Y'all should go get your dinner and sit in front of your computer and have community meal with your neighbors or go play cards with your family. That's what I'm going to do.
I watch pandemic movies is what I do.
Ah, oh my gosh.
Drama Strain is tonight.
All right. Thank you, everybody.